Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. You've just found your new favorite place for true horror stories that will genuinely mess with your head. Tonight is going to be intense. I've compiled 7 of the most disturbing late-night driving stories I've ever come across. And before you ask, yes, these are all real. These actually happened to real people. Now before we jump in, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below and let me know. What's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you while driving alone? I left Denver at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact time because I'd checked my phone twice before pulling out of my sister's driveway, debating whether I should just crash on her couch and leave in the morning. But I had a presentation at 9, and the drive back to Cheyenne was only 90 minutes. I'd done it 100 times. The first hour was fine. I had a podcast playing, something about unsolved disappearances that I wasn't really paying attention to. The highway was empty, which was normal for a weeknight. Maybe I passed 3 or 4 cars total. The road was straight, the lines were bright, and my tank was 3/4 full. Everything was routine. Around the 50-minute mark, I noticed my phone had lost signal. Not unusual out here. There are dead zones all along this stretch. Places where the towers just don't reach. I turned off the podcast since it kept buffering and switched to FM radio. Static on most channels. Finally, I found a classic rock station playing Hotel California, and I left it there. That's when I saw the gas station. It was one of those old independents, not a chain. The sign said, "Last Stop," in faded red letters, and 2 of the pumps were lit by a single flickering overhead light. The building itself looked closed. Windows dark, no cars in the lot. But the pumps were on. I almost kept driving, but my gauge had dropped faster than I expected. I must have been pushing the AC harder than I thought. I pulled in. The silence hit me as soon as I turned off the engine. No wind, no insects, just the hum of that overhead light and the faint buzz of the pumps. I swiped my card and started filling up, keeping my eyes on the dark building. The windows were too black. Not just unlit, black. Like something was blocking them from the inside. I finished pumping and got back in the car faster than I needed to. As I pulled onto the highway, I glanced at the rearview mirror. The gas station was gone. Not dark, not distant, just gone. I told myself it was a curve in the road, a dip in the landscape. But I knew that stretch. It was flat for miles. I turned the radio back up. The classic rock station was gone. Every channel was static now except one. A man's voice, low and calm, reading numbers. 4, 7, 2, 9, 4, 7, 2, 9. Over and over. I switched it off. That's when I saw the mile marker. 147. I'd passed it 10 minutes ago. I slowed down, checking my mirrors, my speedometer, my GPS. No signal still, but the road looked right. Same lanes, same lines, same darkness pressing in on both sides. I kept driving. 5 minutes later, another mile marker, 147. My hands started sweating. I sped up, pushing 75, then 80. The road stayed straight. No turns, no exits. But 8 minutes later, there it was again. Mile marker 147. I pulled over, hazards on, and grabbed my phone. Still no signal. I tried to load the map anyway, but the screen just showed a blank grid. No roads, no labels, just a blue dot in the center. Me, and nothing else. That's when I saw the headlights behind me. They were distant, maybe half a mile back, but they were coming fast. I waited, thinking maybe it was a cop, someone who could help, but as the lights got closer, they slowed. Matching my speed exactly. They stopped about 100 feet behind me and just sat there. I pulled back onto the road and accelerated. The headlights followed, keeping the same distance. I slowed, they slowed. I sped up to 90. They stayed 100 feet back. I don't know how long that went on. 10 minutes? 20? Time felt wrong. My phone said 1:03 a.m., but it had said 12:52 when I pulled over. That was more than 10 minutes ago. Then I saw him, a man, standing on the shoulder, facing the road. He was wearing a dark coat and his hands were in his pockets. As I passed, he didn't turn his head, didn't move, just stood there staring straight ahead. 2 minutes later, I saw him again. Same man, same coat, same position. Exactly the same. I started crying. I didn't mean to. It just came out. this sudden wave of panic that made my chest tight and my vision blur. I wiped my eyes and focused on the road, looking for anything different, any sign, any exit. The headlights were still behind me. Then the radio turned on by itself. That same voice. 4, 7, 2, 9. But slower now. Deliberate. And then it said something else. "You're going the wrong way." I screamed and slammed the brakes. The car behind me swerved and passed, taillights disappearing into the dark. It was just a sedan, empty as far as I could tell, but it was gone in seconds, and I was alone again. I sat there shaking, trying to breathe, and then I saw light ahead. Bright, white, fluorescent light. A truck stop. Real, solid. I could see people inside through the windows. I drove toward it like my life depended on it. The place was busy. 3 semis in the lot. A family at one of the booths. The clerk barely looked up when I walked in. I bought a coffee I didn't drink, and asked how far to Cheyenne. He said 40 minutes. I was back on track. Whatever had happened, it was over. I made it home at 2:30 a.m. I didn't sleep. The next day, I checked my dashcam footage. I'd forgotten I even had it running. Most of it was normal, just me driving, the road ahead lit by my headlights. But there's one part, right around the time I passed that man on the shoulder, where the camera glitches. The image stutters, pixelates, and for just a fraction of a second, there's a face pressed against the passenger window. I live alone, and my windows were up the whole time. I deleted the footage, but I can still see it when I close my eyes. I was driving from Portland to Seattle for a job interview. It was supposed to be a simple 4-hour drive, but my boss called at the last minute and asked me to cover a late shift. By the time I got on the road, it was almost midnight. I thought about getting a hotel, but the interview was at 7 in the morning, and I couldn't afford to miss it. So I filled up a thermos with coffee, plugged in my phone, and headed north on I-5. The interstate was quiet. A few trucks, some scattered cars, nothing unusual. I had my playlist going, indie rock, stuff I could sing along to without thinking. My eyes were tired, but the caffeine was doing its job. I figured I'd be fine. Around 1:30 a.m. I started feeling it. That heavy, drooping sensation behind my eyes. I'd been driving for 90 minutes straight, and my body was done. I knew I shouldn't push it. There was a rest stop coming up in 12 miles according to the sign. I'd pull over, close my eyes for 20 minutes, and get back on the road. The rest stop appeared exactly when the sign said it would. It was small, just a bathroom building, a few picnic tables, and a parking lot with space for maybe a dozen cars. There were 2 other vehicles there, a white van near the far end and a white sedan closer to the building. Both were empty as far as I could tell. I parked under one of the lights, closer to the bathrooms, and kept my doors locked. I set a timer on my phone for 20 minutes, reclined my seat, and closed my eyes. I didn't sleep. I tried, but something felt off. The air was too still. There was no sound. No wind, no distant traffic, nothing. Just silence. After 5 minutes, I gave up and sat up straight, planning to just rest my eyes until the timer went off. That's when I noticed the van had moved. It was still in the parking lot, but now it was 3 spaces closer to me. I stared at it, trying to convince myself I just remembered wrong. Maybe it had always been there, but I knew it hadn't. I'd looked right at it when I parked. It had been at the far end. I turned my car on, ready to leave, but then I saw the sedan. It had moved too. It was now directly behind me, blocking me in. My heart started hammering. I put the car in drive and yanked the wheel, pulling forward and around the sedan. As I passed it, I looked inside. Empty. No one in the front seat. No one in the back. I hit the gas and headed for the exit, but there wasn't one. I circled the lot twice, looking for the ramp back to the interstate. It was gone. The road I'd driven in on just wasn't there anymore. Instead, there was a concrete barrier, and beyond it, thick trees pressing in close. I stopped the car, breathing hard, and checked my mirrors. The van was behind me again. Closer now, maybe 10 feet away. I drove to the other side of the lot, putting distance between us. My phone had no signal. I tried calling 911 anyway. Nothing. I opened my Maps app, but it wouldn't load. Just a spinning circle on a gray screen. The bathroom building had a light on inside. I could see it through the small frosted windows near the roofline. I thought maybe someone was in there, someone who could help. I left my car running, doors locked, and walked toward the building. The door was propped open with a rock. Inside, the lights were fluorescent and buzzing. The floor was wet, but there were no puddles, just a slick, even dampness that covered everything. It smelled like chlorine and something else. Something rotten underneath. "Hello?" My voice echoed. No response. I checked the stalls. All empty. Doors hanging open. But in the last one, there was something written on the wall in black marker. "Don't go back to your car." I ran. I didn't think. I just ran back to my car, threw myself inside, and locked the doors. The van was right next to me now. Driver's side window facing mine. I couldn't see inside. The glass was tinted too dark. But I knew someone was in there. I could feel it. I reversed hard, tires squealing, and drove toward the trees, looking for any gap, any path, anything that might lead back to the road. That's when I saw her. A woman standing between two picnic tables. She was wearing a nightgown and no shoes. Her hair was long and wet, hanging in front of her face. She wasn't moving, just standing there. I stopped the car, staring at her. She slowly raised one arm and pointed behind me. I looked in the rearview mirror. The van's headlights turned on. I floored it. I drove straight at the tree line, praying there was a gap I'd missed. And there was a narrow dirt path, barely wide enough for my car. Branches scraped the sides as I pushed through, but I didn't care. I just needed to get out. The path opened onto the interstate. Same road, same lanes, like I'd never left. I merged back into traffic. There were even a few cars now, and I didn't stop driving until I saw the lights of Seattle. I made it to my interview on time. I got the job. Everything went back to normal. But 3 days later, I got a notification on my phone. Someone had airdropped me a photo. I don't know who. It just said iPhone with no name. I opened it without thinking. It was a picture of my car, taken from above, like someone was standing on the roof of the bathroom building. The timestamp said 1:47 a.m. the same night. But here's the thing that made me delete the photo and turn off AirDrop forever. In the picture, my car wasn't empty. There was someone sitting in the passenger seat. I was alone that entire night. I'm sure of it. But in the photo there's a figure. Pale. Wet hair. Facing forward. And the driver's seat, where I was sitting, is empty. I picked up a hitchhiker once. Just once. And I'll never do it again. It was late October, around 2 a.m., and I was driving back from my girlfriend's place in Flagstaff. We'd had a fight. Nothing serious, just one of those stupid arguments that feels huge at the time. And I'd left angry, wanting to clear my head with the drive. The route back to Phoenix was long and empty, cutting through the desert on a 2-lane highway that barely saw traffic after dark. I'd been driving for about 40 minutes when I saw him. He was standing on the shoulder, thumb out, lit by my headlights. Older guy, maybe late 50s, wearing a denim jacket and jeans. He had a duffel bag at his feet and a tired expression that seemed genuine. I'm not the kind of person who picks up strangers. I've heard the stories, but something about him felt harmless. Maybe it was because I was still angry and wanted to do something decent to balance it out. Maybe I was just stupid. I pulled over. He jogged up to the passenger window and I rolled it down halfway. "Where you headed?" I asked. "Phoenix," he said. His voice was rough, like he'd been smoking for decades. "Got family there." Car broke down about 10 miles back. I hesitated, my hand still on the gear shift, ready to leave. But then he smiled. This weary, grateful smile. And I unlocked the door. "Thanks, man," he said, tossing his bag in the back and climbing in. "You're a lifesaver." We didn't talk much at first. He stared out the window, and I focused on the road. The desert stretched out on both sides, flat and black under a moonless sky. No other cars. No lights except my headlights cutting through the dark. After about 10 minutes, he broke the silence. "You ever feel like you're driving in circles?" I glanced at him. "What do you mean?" "Like, the road just keeps going, but you're not actually getting anywhere." He was still looking out the window. "Happened to me once. Drove for hours, thought I was making progress, but I kept seeing the same damn billboard. Over and over." "That's weird," I said, trying to sound polite but uninterested. I didn't want to encourage conversation. I just wanted to get him to Phoenix and be done with it. He nodded slowly. Yeah, real weird. Another 20 minutes passed. The radio had been playing classic rock, but the signal started cutting out, replaced by static. I switched it off. The silence felt heavier now. I couldn't explain it, but the air in the car seemed thicker, like it was harder to breathe. That's when I saw the billboard. It was for a casino. Bright red letters on a black background. Lucky 7, 50 miles ahead. I'd never seen it before, but that wasn't unusual. I didn't drive this route often, but then 15 minutes later I saw it again. Same billboard, same message. Lucky 7, 50 miles ahead. I slowed down, staring at it as we passed. My chest tightened. You see that? I asked. He didn't answer right away. When I looked over, he was watching me. Not the road, me. His eyes were dark, too dark, and his expression was unreadable. See what? He finally said. That billboard. I passed it twice. He smiled, but it wasn't the same tired smile from before. This one didn't reach his eyes. Told you. Sometimes you're not getting anywhere. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. I checked the odometer. I'd been driving for over an hour since picking him up. We should have been halfway to Phoenix by now. But the road looked exactly the same. Same flat desert, same empty darkness. I tried my phone. No signal. I tried to stay calm, to think logically, but my heart was pounding now. Where exactly did your car break down? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I don't remember, he said. You said 10 miles back. Did I? I didn't respond. I just drove faster, watching the speedometer climb to 70, then 80. The road stayed straight. No curves, no turns, just endless asphalt disappearing into the dark. And then I saw the billboard again. Lucky 7, 50 miles ahead. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop and I turned to face him. What the hell is going on? He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me with those two dark eyes. You shouldn't have stopped, he said quietly. Get out, I said, my voice shaking. Get out of my car, now. He reached for the door handle, slow and deliberate, and pushed it open. But he didn't get out. He just sat there, one foot on the pavement, looking back at me. You can keep driving, he said, but you won't get anywhere. Not until you figure it out. Figure what out? He smiled again. Why you picked me up. And then he was gone. Not walking away, just gone. The passenger seat was empty, the door hanging open, and his duffel bag was no longer in the back. I sat there, breathing hard, staring at the empty seat. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it, but I couldn't. I reached over and slammed the door shut, then hit the gas. I drove for another hour, maybe more. I don't really remember. At some point, the road changed. I saw lights in the distance, Phoenix finally, and I merged onto the interstate like nothing had happened. I made it home just before sunrise. I didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? But a week later, I was going through my glove box looking for my registration, and I found something I'd never seen before. A Polaroid photo, old and faded, tucked under the manual. It was a picture of a car on the side of the road. My car, same make, same model, same license plate, and standing next to the driver's side door, thumb out, was me. I was the hitchhiker. The photo was dated October 1987, 36 years before I was born. I was driving home from my mom's funeral. It was a 6-hour trip from Northern California back to Reno, and I'd left late because I couldn't stand another minute in that house full of relatives I barely knew, all of them saying the same empty things. I'm sorry for your loss. She's in a better place. Time heals everything. I just wanted to be alone. It was nearly 11 p.m. when I got on Highway 89, winding through the mountains. The road was familiar. I'd driven it dozens of times visiting my mom over the years. But it felt different that night. Heavier somehow. The trees pressed in close on both sides, and the darkness between them seemed absolute. About an hour in, the fog rolled in. It started as wisps crossing the road, thin enough to see through. But within minutes it got thicker, a solid gray wall that my headlights barely penetrated. I slowed to 40, then 30, leaning forward in my seat and squinting through the windshield. The yellow line was the only thing keeping me centered. I thought about pulling over, waiting it out. but there was nowhere safe to stop. The shoulder was narrow, and the drop-off on the right side was steep. So I kept going, creeping along, hands tight on the wheel. That's when I saw the brake lights. 2 red dots in the fog ahead, maybe 50 feet in front of me. Another car moving just as slowly as I was. I felt a small wave of relief. At least I wasn't alone out here. I kept my distance and followed, letting them lead the way through the worst of it. We drove like that for maybe 20 minutes. The fog never lifted. If anything, it got worse. I couldn't see the trees anymore. Couldn't see the road except for the small patch directly in front of me. Just those 2 red lights floating in the gray. Then they stopped. I hit my brakes, stopping about 20 feet behind them. I waited, expecting them to start moving again. Maybe they were checking their phone, or trying to get their bearings. But they just sat there, brake lights glowing. Not moving, I honked. Once lightly. No response. I waited another minute, then honked again, longer this time. Still nothing. I put my car in park and turned on my hazards, then stepped out. The cold hit me immediately, wet and biting. The fog was so thick I could barely see my own hood. I walked forward slowly, one hand trailing along the side of my car to keep my bearings. As I got closer to the other car, I could make out the shape of it. A sedan, dark blue or black, hard to tell in the fog. The engine was running. I could hear it idling, but the windows were dark. I couldn't see inside. I knocked on the driver's window. "Hey, you okay in there?" No answer. I knocked harder. "Hello?" Nothing. I tried the door handle. It was unlocked. The door opened with a soft click, and the interior light came on. The car was empty. No driver. No one in the passenger seat. No one in the back. Just an empty car, engine running, brake lights on, and the driver's seat was still warm. I stepped back, my heart starting to race. The fog seemed to press in closer, muffling everything. I couldn't hear anything except my own breathing and the idle of that empty car. I turned and ran back to my car, stumbling in the fog, my hands shaking as I reached for the door handle. I got in, locked the doors, and threw it in reverse. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, I couldn't see anything. Just fog. Dense, impenetrable fog. I shifted back into drive and turned the wheel, trying to go around the sedan. But as I pulled past it, I saw something that made my blood freeze. There was another car ahead of it. Same make, same model, same dark color. Brake lights on, engine running, and another one beyond that. I counted 5 cars total, all identical, all empty, all lined up in the fog like they were waiting for something. I didn't think. I just floored it, swerving around them, my tires slipping on the wet pavement. The fog swallowed the cars behind me, and I focused on the road ahead, or what I hoped was the road. I couldn't see the lines anymore. Couldn't see anything except gray. My speedometer said 50, but it felt faster. The car shuddered over something, a bump maybe, or a pothole, and I eased off the gas, trying to regain control. That's when the radio turned on. I hadn't touched it. It had been off the entire drive, but now it was playing, loud and clear through the static. A woman's voice, calm and even, speaking in a monotone. "Turn around. Turn around. Turn around." I switched it off, but it came back on immediately. The same voice. "Turn around. Turn around. Turn around." I ripped the faceplate off the radio, wires sparking, and the voice stopped. The fog started to thin, slowly at first, then faster, like a curtain lifting. Within a minute, I could see the road again. The trees, the yellow line. Everything was normal, clear. I was still on Highway 89, still heading toward Reno. I didn't stop. I drove straight through the night, white-knuckling the wheel, checking my mirrors every few seconds. I made it home just after 3 a.m. and sat in my driveway for an hour before I could bring myself to go inside. I told myself it was the grief, the stress, the exhaustion, my mind playing tricks after everything I'd been through. I almost believed it, but 2 days later I got a call from the highway patrol. They said they'd found my car on Highway 89, abandoned in the fog with the engine running and the brake lights on. I told them that was impossible. I was home, my car was in my driveway. There was a long pause. Then the officer said, "Ma'am, we have your plates on record. The car we found is registered to you." I walked outside while he was still talking. My car was in the driveway. Same car, same plates. But when I looked at the odometer, it had 287 more miles on it than it should have. And in the back seat, I found a jacket that wasn't mine. It was damp, cold, and it smelled like fog. I was driving through West Virginia on my way to visit my brother in Pittsburgh. It was supposed to be a straightforward 8-hour drive, but I'd hit traffic outside Columbus and didn't get back on the road until almost 10 p.m. I thought about stopping for the night, but I'd already told my brother I'd be there by morning, and I hate breaking promises. The GPS took me off the interstate around midnight, routing me through back roads to avoid an accident up ahead. I didn't think much of it. The road was narrow and winding, cutting through dense forest, but it was paved and well marked. My phone said it would save me 40 minutes. I'd been following the route for about half an hour when I saw the tunnel. It wasn't on the GPS. The map showed the road continuing straight through the mountain, but there was no indication of a tunnel. Still, there it was. A dark opening carved into the rock face, maybe 20 feet high and just wide enough for 2 lanes. There was no sign, no lights, nothing to indicate what it was or how long it went. I slowed down as I approached. Something about it felt wrong. The entrance was too dark, like it was absorbing light instead of reflecting it, but there was no other way forward. The road led directly into the tunnel, and there was no shoulder to turn around on. The forest pressed in too close on both sides. I took a breath and drove in. My headlights barely penetrated the darkness. The walls were rough concrete, streaked with water stains and patches of moss. The road inside was cracked and uneven, and my tires thumped over potholes I couldn't see until I hit them. There were no lights overhead, no reflectors on the walls, just my headlights and the tunnel stretching ahead into blackness. I checked my odometer, planning to time how long it took to get through. The road had to end eventually. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The tunnel didn't end. I started to feel the first prickle of unease. This was taking too long. Even a mountain tunnel shouldn't be more than a mile or 2 at most. I'd been driving for 5 minutes at 40 miles per hour. That was over 3 miles. I sped up to 50, then 60, watching the walls blur past. The darkness ahead never changed. No light at the end, no variation in the walls. Just the same cracked concrete, the same wet stains, the same endless black. My phone had no signal. I tried the GPS anyway, but the screen was frozen on the last frame before I'd entered the tunnel. The blue dot, my location, was stuck at the entrance, not moving. 10 minutes, 15, 20. I should have been through by now. I should have been back in the open air, back in the forest, but the tunnel just kept going. That's when I saw the car. It was sitting on the side of the road, hazard lights blinking weakly. An old sedan, rusted and dented, like it had been there for years. I slowed as I passed, looking inside. Empty. But the keys were still in the ignition, and the driver's door was hanging open. I kept driving. A few minutes later, I saw another car. This one was newer. A SUV with a cracked windshield and flat tires. Also empty. Also abandoned, then another, and another. I counted 7 cars total, all on the shoulder, all empty, all with their doors open like the drivers had just stepped out and never come back. My hands were shaking now. I wanted to turn around, but the road was too narrow, and I couldn't see behind me. The darkness in my rearview mirror was absolute. I had no choice but to keep going forward. That's when my engine started sputtering. The car jerked, losing power, and I watched the speedometer drop from 60 to 50 to 40. I pressed the gas pedal to the floor, but it didn't respond. The engine coughed, stuttered, and died. I coasted to a stop, the headlights flickering once before going out completely. I sat in total darkness, my heart hammering in my chest. I tried the ignition, nothing, not even a click. I tried my phone's flashlight, but the screen wouldn't turn on. The battery icon had shown 70% when I entered the tunnel. Now it was dead. I sat there breathing hard, trying to think. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoing off the tunnel walls, coming from somewhere ahead of me. I locked the doors, my hands fumbling in the dark. The footsteps got closer, steady, unhurried, and then they stopped. Right outside my car, I couldn't see anything. The darkness was so complete it felt solid, like I could reach out and touch it. But I knew someone was there. I could hear them breathing, slow, wet breaths just outside the driver's side window. I don't know how long I sat there. It felt like hours. The breathing never stopped, never moved. Just stayed there, inches away from me, separated only by a thin pane of glass. And then, without warning, my engine turned back on. The headlights flared to life, and I screamed. There was no one outside the car. The tunnel was empty. Just cracked concrete and darkness. I didn't hesitate. I threw the car into drive and floored it, my tires squealing as I took off. I didn't care about the potholes or the uneven road. I just needed to get out, and then, finally, I saw it. Light. Faint at first, then brighter. The end of the tunnel! I burst out into the night air, gasping like I'd been holding my breath. The forest surrounded me again, and the road stretched ahead, normal and familiar. I pulled over as soon as I found a shoulder and sat there, shaking, trying to process what had just happened. I checked my phone. It turned on immediately. Battery at 70%. The time said 12:47 a.m. I'd entered the tunnel at 12:22, 25 minutes. That was all. But it had felt like hours. I made it to my brother's place by dawn. I didn't tell him about the tunnel. I didn't tell anyone. But last week I got a message on Facebook from someone I didn't know. No profile picture, no name, just a blank account. The message had no words. Just a video file. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got the better of me. It was dashcam footage. Grainy, black and white, time-stamped 3 months before my trip. The video showed a car driving through a tunnel, the same tunnel I'd driven through. And in the final seconds, before the video cut out, you could see someone standing in the road ahead. They were waving the car forward, deeper into the tunnel. And when I paused the video and zoomed in, I saw the face. It was mine. I was driving back from a wedding in rural Montana, heading south toward Billings. The reception had gone late, and by the time I said my goodbyes and got on the road, it was past 1 a.m. The highway was empty, just me, the stars, and endless plains stretching out in every direction. I'm the kind of person who needs noise when I drive at night. Silence makes me drowsy, makes my mind wander. So I turned on the radio, flipping through static until I found something clear. A classic hit station playing Tom Petty. Good enough. I'd been driving for about 45 minutes when the song cut out mid-chorus, replaced by a smooth male voice. You're listening to 104.7, The Night Shift. It's 1:52 a.m., and this next one goes out to everyone driving alone tonight. You know who you are. Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. The tone was too familiar, too intimate, like he was talking directly to me. I reached for the dial to change the station, but before I could, another song started. Dream a Little Dream of Me by the Mamas and the Papas. I left it. The song ended, and the DJ came back on. Beautiful night out there, isn't it? Clear skies, open roads. Easy to lose track of time on a drive like this. Easy to lose track of a lot of things. I glanced at my speedometer, still doing 70. The road was still straight, still empty. Nothing unusual, but my hands tightened on the wheel anyway. We've got a caller on the line, the DJ continued. Let's see what they have to say. Go ahead, you're on the air. There was a pause, then a woman's voice, shaky and breathless. I think someone's following me. Following you? The DJ asked, his tone calm and measured. Where are you right now? I don't know. Somewhere on Highway 12. I've been driving for over an hour, and there's this car behind me. It's been there the whole time. Every time I speed up, it speeds up. Every time I slow down, it slows down. My chest tightened. I checked my rearview mirror. No headlights. The road behind me was pitch black. Have you tried pulling over? The DJ asked. I'm too scared. What if they stop too? That's a tough spot, the DJ said. Tell you what, keep driving. Keep this station on. We'll keep you company. Okay, the woman whispered. Thank you. The line went dead and music started again. Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell. I changed the station. Static. I tried another. More static. I went through every preset, every frequency, and all I got was static except for 104.7. The Night Shift. So I left it there. 2 songs later, the DJ came back. Still with us out there? Good. Let's check in with our caller. You still on the road? The woman's voice returned, more panicked now. Yes, they're still behind me. They're closer now. I can see their headlights in my mirror. How close? Maybe 50 feet? I don't know. I'm scared. I checked my mirror again. Still nothing. But my heart was pounding now. "Listen to me," the DJ said, his voice dropping lower. "You need to stay calm. Keep your speed steady. Don't make any sudden moves. Can you see what kind of car it is?" "No. The headlights are too bright. I can't see anything past them." Okay, just keep driving. You're doing great." Another song, "Blue Bayou" by Roy Orbison. I turned the volume down, trying to focus on the road. The plains were endless. No towns, no lights, just darkness. My phone had no signal. I thought about turning off the radio entirely, but something stopped me. I needed to know what happened to that woman. When the song ended, the DJ came back immediately. "We've lost contact with our caller," he said. "If you're still listening, give us a call back. We want to make sure you're okay." Silence. Then, "In the meantime, let's take another call." "You're on the air," a man's voice this time, older, tired. "Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say, I've been listening to your station for years. Every time I drive at night, and I've noticed something." "What's that?" the DJ asked. "The callers, the people who call in, they're always in trouble. Always being followed, always lost, always scared, and none of them ever call back." The DJ didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was different, colder. "That's an interesting observation. What happens to them?" the man asked. I couldn't say. "I think you could." The line went dead. The music started again, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching my mirrors, scanning the darkness, looking for headlights that weren't there. The next song ended, and the DJ came back on. "It's 2:31 a.m., and you're still with us on the night shift. Before we go to our next song, I want to give a shout out to a very special listener, someone who's been with us for the last 40 minutes. My stomach dropped. You're driving a 2018 Honda Accord, blue, heading south on Highway 12. You're about 17 miles outside of Roundup. And you're completely alone out there, aren't you?" I grabbed my phone. Still no signal. I looked at the road signs. He was right. I was on Highway 12, 17 miles outside of Roundup. "Don't bother trying to change the station," the DJ continued. "You won't find anything else. Not out here. Not tonight." I punched the power button on the radio. It didn't turn off. I held it down. Nothing. I tried ripping the faceplate off, but it wouldn't budge. "I know you're scared," the DJ said, his voice soft now, almost soothing. "But here's the thing. You don't have to be. All you have to do is keep driving. Just keep driving and everything will be fine. Who are you?" I screamed at the radio. He laughed, a low, quiet laugh that made my skin crawl. "I'm just the DJ, and you? You're tonight's caller." The music cut out. The static returned, and then a dial tone. And a woman's voice, my voice, shaky and breathless, came through the speakers. "I think someone's following me." I looked in my rearview mirror. Headlights, 50 feet back, getting closer. I don't remember much after that. I remember pressing the gas pedal to the floor. I remember my speedometer hitting 90, then 100. I remember the lights staying behind me, matching my speed exactly. I made it to Billings just after 3 a.m. The headlights disappeared the moment I hit city limits. The radio shut off on its own, and when I tried to turn it back on, it worked normally. Pop stations, country, news, everything. But when I got home and checked my call log, there was a number I didn't recognize. An outgoing call, made at 2:34 a.m., lasting 11 minutes. I never called anyone, and when I played back the voicemail I had somehow left for myself, all I heard was my own voice, terrified, saying the same thing over and over. "Please, someone help me. I think someone's following me." I was driving from Boston to Burlington to see my daughter. She'd just had her first baby, and I'd promised I'd be there by morning to help out. It was a 5-hour drive, and I'd left around midnight to avoid traffic. The plan was to drive through the night, grab a coffee somewhere around 3 a.m., and arrive just as the sun came up. I'd made the trip dozens of times. I-89 North, straight shot, nothing complicated. I could practically drive it with my eyes closed. Around 1:30 a.m. I saw the detour sign. It was one of those orange construction signs with an arrow pointing right, lit up by my headlights. Road closed, detour ahead. I didn't think much of it. Construction happens. I followed the arrow onto a smaller highway, figuring it would loop me back to I-89 within a few miles. The road was narrow, 2 lanes cutting through dense forest. No streetlights, No other cars. My GPS was still showing the route I'd planned, but the blue line indicating my position had veered off course. I waited for it to recalculate, but it just kept loading. After about 10 minutes, I saw another detour sign. This one pointed left. I followed it, then another. Right this time. Then another. Each sign took me deeper into the back roads, further from the highway, further from anything that looked familiar. The trees got thicker, the road got narrower, and the darkness pressed in so close that my headlights barely seemed to cut through it. I should have turned around. I know that now, but at the time I kept thinking the next sign would lead me back. That this was just a temporary inconvenience, that I'd see the highway again any minute. 15 minutes became 30, 30 became 45. My GPS finally recalculated, but when I looked at the screen, my blood went cold. The map showed me in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by blank space with no roads, no towns, nothing. Just a blue dot sitting in a void. I pulled over and tried to call my daughter. No signal. I tried 911, same thing. I opened my Maps app, but it wouldn't load. Just a spinning wheel on a gray screen. I sat there for a minute, trying to steady my breathing, trying to think. And that's when I realized something. I hadn't seen a single other car since I'd taken the first detour. Not one. No headlights behind me, no taillights ahead. Just me, alone, on roads that didn't seem to exist. I put the car in drive and kept going. What else could I do? Another 10 minutes, and I saw something that made my heart sink. A detour sign. The same orange construction sign with an arrow pointing right, except I'd already passed this one. I recognized the tree it was leaning against. A twisted oak with a split trunk. I was going in circles. I turned around and drove back the way I came, ignoring the signs this time. But after 5 minutes, I hit a dead end. The road just stopped. No warning, no barricade, just pavement that ended abruptly at a wall of trees so thick I couldn't see past the first few feet. I turned around again. My hands were shaking now, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I tried a different direction, ignoring every detour sign, just driving straight whenever I could. But no matter which way I went, I kept seeing the same landmarks, the same twisted oak, the same crooked fence post, the same mailbox hanging off its hinge. I was trapped. I don't know how long I drove like that. An hour? 2? Time felt wrong, like it was stretching and compressing in ways that didn't make sense. My phone said 2:14 a.m., but it had said 2:14 the last time I checked, and the time before that. That's when I saw the house. It was set back from the road, barely visible through the trees. A small cabin with a porch light on and a car parked out front. I almost cried with relief. Someone was home. Someone who could give me directions, let me use their phone, tell me how to get back to the highway. I pulled into the driveway and got out. The air was cold and damp, and the silence was absolute. No wind, no crickets, nothing. Just the hum of my engine and the crunch of gravel under my feet. I walked up to the porch and knocked on the door. Hello? I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm lost. I just need some help. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Please, is anyone home? The door swung open. Not because someone opened it, it just swung inward on its own, creaking softly. The inside was dark except for a faint glow coming from deeper in the house. Hello? I called out, stepping into the doorway, and then I saw it. The living room was full of detour signs, dozens of them, leaning against the walls, stacked in corners, covering every surface. Orange and black, all identical, all pointing in different directions. And in the center of the room, sitting on a couch, was a woman. She was staring at a TV that wasn't on, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't move, didn't blink, just sat there, perfectly still. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She turned her head slowly, mechanically, until she was looking at me. Her eyes were wrong, too wide, too empty. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I'm lost," I said. "I just need directions." "There are no directions," she said. "Only detours." I backed away, stumbling off the porch, and ran to my car. I didn't look back. I threw the car into reverse and tore out of the driveway, my tires spitting gravel. I drove blindly, taking turns at random, desperate to get away from that house. And then, impossibly, I saw light. Streetlights. A sign for I-89. The highway. I merged onto it, gasping, tears streaming down my face. Within minutes, I passed a gas station, a rest stop, signs for towns I recognized. Everything was normal again. I made it to Burlington just after 5 a.m. My daughter asked why I looked so shaken, but I couldn't tell her. I still can't. But 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name and address written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. It was my car, parked in that driveway. Taken from inside the cabin, through the window. You could see me on the porch, my hand raised to knock. But here's what made me burn the photograph and never speak of it again. In the driver's seat of my car, visible through the windshield, was someone sitting there, watching me. And it was the woman from the couch.